We are live to the world, everybody.
Hello, Internet.
Hello, Space Mike.
Hello, Dada.
Hello, Carrie Ann.
I'm like really hyped up from just watching the launch and landing too, so this should be good.
You're black over there. Okay. So, Carrie Ann, when we get to break, I'm going to need you to give me a focus target out here, out there, so that because that space is empty.
Right. Do you want me to just sit there now?
No, just during break. Everybody ready?
Almost.
I think so. Kinda.
Yeah, thanks. I thought the shirt would be appropriate.
That's awesome.
Of course, now I have to like stand up straight so everyone can see it. That's gonna be confusing and strange, and I don't see. I'm not straight, so this is weird. I don't know how to move to make that work. I did a little bit of screaming, so I don't know how my voice is. This is going to be really interesting. I didn't think that went all the way through. Also, I did a little bit of crying. So,
Music. I've got music coming from somewhere. Is that you still? Okay.
my makeup is kind of crap. I also did a lot of swearing. But we won't repeat that. Okay, hold on. I need to score this up really quick. All right, and just so everyone is aware, there will be no After Dark unless, Mike, you bring people over to your channel or anything along those lines, because our director is giving me a ride to the airport so that at least one of us can be in Florida for her birthday.
Oh, happy early birthday.
Thank you.
You're the 18th?
19, but yeah.
19th.
Yep.
Cool.
You're not 19.
No. Did I tell you I was carded the other day?
Nice.
And it was
That's
really weird
awesome.
because I was with somebody who was younger than me, and he didn't get
Did
carded.
they not get carded?
Yeah, he didn't get carded. It was really stupid.
Okay. You guys want to do your cold open?
Sure.
Sure. I don't. How do we want to do a cold open?
Either that or it happens after the show, like we normally do.
Right. Probably after the show, just in case.
Okay, let's do
Right.
that. You ready to
Just
start?
in case we skip our favorite story or something like
Right.
that.
Right. Exactly. Sure. I'm as ready as I'll ever be.
Okay.
We'll pretend. Does this look all right? Do I need to get closer to Mike?
There you go.
Okay. This will be highly entertaining. All right.
There we go.
Welcome to Orbit 10. This is episode 2. I am Carrie Ann. Of course, I've got Mike, and you can see Donna now because Mr. Jared is actually off on an excursion. So, but before we get started, I want to make sure that I give a huge shout out to our Patreon members. These are our Escape Velocity patrons, and these people have given us $10 or more for this particular segment of this particular episode, which is really great and fantastic, and thank you. And we changed the font a little bit, I think, so you can actually read your name a little bit better. These people, of course, get access to our Slack channel, which is really, really fun, particularly as we keep adding those tiny little touches to our set. So you guys are getting first access to all of those sorts of things, and you know, kind of joining us on this orbital journey, if you will. I hope Ben likes that particular part. This, of course, is January 14th of 2017. And a lot of really interesting, fun things have already happened. Even just today, I might have done a little bit of screaming and a little bit of crying before the show. So excuse me for that. But
Oh, man.
right?
Yeah, I think I got my dogs all excited, jumping up and down out of excitement. Awesome.
Oh, just the thought of that makes me laugh because then I think of Jared laughing at your dogs. So there's that. But of course, as we always like to start off the show, because how awesome is it that we can always start the show with a launch? Mike,
Yeah.
we had a
And not
launch
even the
since
launch
last week.
that we just launched.
I
Not even
know!
the launch that we just watched. Which we don't have any footage of that to replay for you yet, but I'm sure everyone in the chat room has just seen that already. But the launch that we did want to show you guys is actually a Chinese launch. They had a second launch. They were the second ones to launch this year.
Amazing.
And this is from a kind of really interesting rocket. It's called the Kaizhou 111, and this is based off of an old mobile launcher, ICBM. I wanted to show some footage here of their preparation of the rocket before we watch the launch itself. Now, with this rocket, it's a 3-stage solid rocket booster, and it possibly has a secret 4th stage that's liquid fueled as well to boost the payloads into its intended orbit. And with this, the rocket is marketed by a company called X-Space, and you can see on screen how it deploys from the mobile launcher. Now, this footage of this rocket and a similar type of rocket, the Long March 11, has been secret. This is the first time they published it. Let's check out the footage.
That is really cool. That's really
So this is the
fast.
launch itself. Yeah, just like a lot of solids, it takes right off the pad. And so what we're seeing here happened on Monday, January 9th at 4:11 Coordinated Universal Time from the Jiquan Space Center, the one that's in northwest China in the Gobi Desert. And it had 3 payloads on board. The primary payload was a Earth imaging satellite called the Lingqiao 3 satellite, and then there was also 2 experimental CubeSats on this launch as well, and it went into a polar orbit, orbiting around the poles rather than the equator. So that was a successful launch, and China is hoping to market that rocket more and get a lot more commercial launches with that. So congratulations for that successful launch, and I'm really happy that they decided to share footage of it this time. So last time when they had a Long March 11 launch at the end of last year, as you remember, all we had was just the one picture. So
Right.
that was really cool to see.
That is really cool to see. And it's funny, it's one of those things that like it didn't quite sink in. You said that this is like a modified ICBM, and I was like, oh, and then I watched it and I'm like, oh, and it's really fast. Yeah, that makes sense. It's really fast. All right, good job. I'm still learning, so there's that. In any case, so the other thing that we have to talk about is a little bit more earthbound. How's that for a segue? Huh?
Yeah, that's very good. We're getting better at this.
So tell me a little bit more about things happening here on Earth, Mike.
Yeah, so with the whole Earth imaging thing, there's 2 American companies that are both in the Earth imaging business commercially, and that is a company called Planet, formerly Planet Labs, and Terabella. Now, some of you may not know, but actually in 2015, the founders of Google started a new umbrella corporation called Alphabet, which would manage Google so that Google can just focus on internet services, and then all these new different companies, including Terabella, can be managed by Alphabet so that Google can do Google. And with this, they recently
Can I
have...
just stop you for just a nanosecond? Could you imagine saying that phrase or that like paragraph like 5 years ago? It would sound like complete gibberish. Like Google made an umbrella company called Alphabet, so Terabella can just do its own thing, and Google can do its own thing. Like if your grandparents could hear you now, they wouldn't know what you're talking about. All right. Anyhow, sorry. Keep going. I understood.
Well, Alphabet's trying to sell Terabella. I guess they're trying to get rid of that. And the whole reason that they bought Terabella in the first place, they used to be called Skybox Imaging, was to help improve Google Maps as well as to sell commercial images.
Sure.
Now, there's a lot of rumors going around that Planet, or formerly Planet Labs, is seeking to acquire Terabella. And that would be really interesting. I wanted to show just real quick, Terabella has 61 Dove satellites that are in orbit currently. And it also has 5 other satellites that it acquired from a company called Blackridge that it acquired last year, actually also in 2015. And then there's the satellites that Terabella has. Those are images from their satellites, which I've actually spaced the name on that. But they have 5 of those in orbit currently, 4 of which launched on the Vega rocket last year in September. And they're planning on launching another 4 of those later this year on Orbital ATK's Minotaur C rocket. So that would be really interesting if both of these commercial Earth imaging companies were to merge and to produce, more beautiful images and to be able to get a lot of data. I mean, there's so much stuff that you can use it for. I'm thinking mainly of agriculture and stuff like that, but that would be really interesting to see, and I hope that would actually go through. But that's just my opinion.
That would be really cool. That would be really cool. All right. So I get to do some news now, which I haven't done in a really long time. So bear with me on that. So Moon Express, that you may or may not have heard of before, and Google Lunar X Prize, that you definitely have heard of before, because I know we've talked about that. The Google Lunar X Prize, for those of you who are unfamiliar, is talking about trying to get companies or groups together to launch a payload to the moon, a rover, hopefully, or some sort of vehicle that can move around a little bit. And they want you to be able to land, and you have to traverse about 500 meters or so, or more. That's if you can do that. And then spend the night, like stay overnight and survive their night. And then you have to beam down some pictures and or video from the moon. And then you can win a really gigantic prize, which is really cool. And one of those companies is called Moon Express, and they have that really cool logo that you saw a couple of seconds ago. And Moon Express just announced on January 13th that they've closed a $20 million financing round, which is really, really great. They actually have been able to secure 45 million or so. This is, I think that's total, and they're actually looking for another 10 million just for kind of contingencies and what have you, because things go wrong. This is a rocket thing. Right? But the nice thing about having that 20 million is that it secures them a spot on a rocket, actually with Rocket Lab, which is really great, New Zealand/American company there, that they can launch on Rocket Lab on an Electron vehicle is what I'm trying to say. And then their lunar lander, which is called an MX-1E, will be able to do the traversement of the 500 meter with which is one of the requirements, in a kind of a hopping kind of maneuver, which is sort of cool. I don't think it'll be hop along like a bunny, but it will do a couple of hops. Oh, look how cool that vehicle is! It's so neat.
Kind of like almost like one of the vehicles that Maston has, where they'll take off and kind of hover over and land again via engine power. Is what I was able to take from that.
Here's a little bit of video, which is really amazing of them doing some tests. They're doing a lot of this testing down in Florida, and when the Electron vehicle launches, it will launch from Launch Complex 17 at Cape Canaveral Air Force Base. And then I wish I would say that this is footage, but this is, of course, a computer generation idea simulation of how they think everything is going to go once they're on the moon. And then you just kind of hop around and move over and then land and all that other great stuff. And like I said, spend the night, take some pictures, the typical stuff that you do on a vacation. That's what we're looking for. So that's really great. So they've secured the money. They will be able to launch and hopefully win the Google Lunar X Prize, which is really super exciting. Super exciting. Go ahead.
So would you say, Carrie Ann, then, that you're rooting most for Moon Express, or do you have any other favorites?
It's one of those things, it's funny that we have this sort of all ships rise to the tide kind of mentality, because that's totally true. But it's also a really great thing for me to hide behind and say, it doesn't really matter as long as somebody does it.
I like all of them.
I do like all of them. I think I have more of a personal connection to Moon Express for a couple of different reasons after having sort of gone into covering the space news business, if you will, formerly with Space Vidcast, now of course with TMRO for this is Orbit 10, so about 10 years or so. I feel like I've been following Moon Express for a little bit longer, or I don't know if they've just gotten more FaceTime, or if I've met more of the people on their team, or kind of what happened there. But yeah, I have this little bit of a soft spot for Moon Express, and they have a really cool logo, which just totally helps. I mean, let's be honest. So there's that.
That's
but
awesome.
Of course, I think it's one of those great what's that word? Cooperation sort of moments, right? Where it doesn't have to be Moon Express for me, because it's not one of those like Packers versus Vikings NFL sort of situation. It's like, I just want somebody to win. I just want somebody to do it. I want someone to figure it out, and I want somebody to win. And it doesn't matter to me who it really is. Ultimately, I just want it to get done, because what these teams are doing, and however it is that they're going about doing it, is just laying the groundwork for the next people to be able to improve upon it, right?
Absolutely. No, I totally agree. And it's like no matter who wins, all of us who have been following this, we all will win as long as somebody will win the competition. As long as somebody does it, we all will win and more opportunities will come about. You know, Moon Express wants to do all this, lunar mining and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If they were able to win, or even if someone else wins, that's going to bring a lot more attention and hopefully a lot more investment, and even more cool things are going to happen. So,
Exactly.
yeah, I'm right there with you.
I'm sure there's a cheesy line that Ben would say, throw out right about now, something along the lines of, who wins? Humanity wins. So.
Yes, that's right.
Right?
That is something Ben
I'm going
would
to channel
say.
the Ben Credible a little bit there. I hope he's still watching, and I hope he groaned a little bit. Any case, let's talk about something a little bit between Earth and the Moon. Let's talk about spacewalks. Mike, what do you got?
Great segue. Great to have you back on Space News. Oh my goodness. So yeah, we're talking as a follow-up to the spacewalk that happened at the International Space Station last week. This week, actually just yesterday on Friday, we had the second spacewalk to complete all the installation of the new lithium-ion batteries to swap out for the old nickel-hydrogen batteries.
Nice.
And this time it was NASA astronaut Shane Kimbrough and ESA astronaut Thomas Pesquet, and this was actually the first time that he was able to go on a spacewalk, and he's only the fourth French national who's ever done a spacewalk, so that's pretty cool for him. And they were able to complete the tasks that they needed to complete the installation, so that a little bit later they can turn all of it on and restore that solar truss into the power network. What they had to do was install the two remaining adapter plates that were able to connect the new lithium-ion batteries to the station's network, and then also removing and stowing the third out of the 12 of the old batteries into a position that will remain there at the station, and then getting the rest of them ready which most of them have already been loaded onto the Japanese HTV-6 cargo vessel, which brought up the new lithium-ion batteries. And next month, actually February 1st, is when it's scheduled to re-enter the atmosphere, and all of those will be disposed, those old batteries, as well as any other trash that they've loaded on board the vehicle. So that was really cool that they were able to complete all the tasks, and they completed it early.
Even better.
Were able to complete it. Yeah. They were able to complete it 2 hours ahead of schedule and start doing a lot of kind of get-ahead tasks and get things ready to go. I mean, they have their robotic arm that has a really cool robot called Dexter that has lots of different arms and tools on it, that they can do a lot of stuff without astronauts having to be outside the station doing a lot of the work. But there's still some things that they can't do. Even on this spacewalk, before they went on this second one, the Dexter robot wasn't able to screw some of the bolts on the new lithium-ion batteries into its adapter plate all the way in. They weren't able to screw it all the way in. So one of the tasks that they had to do on this spacewalk was to go and just kind of finish tightening it up. You know, most of the work was done, but just the last couple of tweaks to get everything good to go. So there wasn't a whole lot of information on what the get-ahead tasks that they accomplished, because they cut the live feed after they completed their schedules tasks. But whatever those are, I'm sure that's probably in preparation for the next lithium-ion battery swaps, and also some investigations on some of the experiments that are outside the space station on those trusses, like the alpha magnetic spectrometer. They need to do some investigation on that because they had some faulty instruments. But in any case, that's just me, theorizing. It was nearby, so that sounds like something they could have done, but I don't know exactly what they did. But in any case, very cool, and hopefully they won't have any problems with these new batteries, and hopefully they don't have anything weird like the Galaxy Note problems or anything like that, with it exploding in fire or something like that.
Too soon.
Yeah, too soon.
It's funny because when I think lithium-ion batteries, I know that lithium-ion batteries are in a lot of things, but that was one of the first things I thought of, was like, oh, like a cell phone. I won't mention that. Never mind. Just kidding. So let's just move on.
But no, in all seriousness, no, the Japanese Space Agency did a lot of quality controls on these and really pushed them to the limit to try to make them explode. So I'm fairly confident that nothing like that would happen. I hope I didn't jinx anything by
No,
bringing that
goodness,
up.
no.
But no, they really did do a lot of work on them and tried to really push them to their limits. So
Perfect. Yay. So, in classic Carrie-Ann news stories, I had to bring up something that was just pretty. Because that's just me. This is you It's just pretty. Look how pretty that is. It's so amazing. This is
So wait, that's an image of what we were just all talking about. Everything in between, right there.
exactly. So this is planet Earth and planet Earth's moon, and this was this image is actually a dual image. It's two different images that were kind of stitched together a little bit, so you could see them very clearly and beautifully as they are. Taken from 127 million miles away, or 205 million kilometers away. This was caught on November 20th, 2016 from the HiRISE imaging, what am I trying to say? Camera that is on the Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter. So this is image of Earth and its moon from Mars. So if you're a Martian...
From an orbiter around Mars.
Yeah,
Wow.
if you're a Martian and you have a telescope, this is how you see us. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, that's really cool. That puts it in perspective really
Right?
well.
And this wasn't just done just for the prettiness of the picture, although it is an absolutely stunning picture. This is actually how one of the ways that HiRISE uses to calibrate the image. Oh man, I am.
The camera, the instruments on it.
Thank you, because, which is something I didn't know, the reflectance of the moon side that faces Earth is actually like a known reflectance. So you can go, oh, well, that should be X, Y, or Z, which means if I can calibrate that way, then anything else that I'm looking at is now calibrated. Does that follow?
Yeah. No, it's kind of like how on the Mars rovers, how they have an American flag printed on it, and they'll have the cameras pan down to it and kind of color correct so the flag looks correct before looking up and making sure that they have everything color corrected. Is that kind of in the same ballpark?
Kind of in the same ballpark, exactly. Thank you for those words, because apparently I'm failing. But it's just a really amazing. It's one of those things that it's a perspective that we don't typically get. Because we're not Martians, so we're not hanging out on Mars. And it's just a really beautiful, gorgeous image. And I thought, why don't I just show off a little bit on how we look today? Wow. Which is not today.
Wow, that's
it was
awesome.
November 20th. But, I'm sure we looked like that a lot. Oh, actually, Dada, can you go back to the image really quickly? Because there was sort of like a weird, not quite Easter egg. It's hard to see, but bear with me for a moment. There's a darker reddish landmass kind of on the lower end. And that is Australia. I'm laughing because
So we're seeing a picture of Mini Stoge right now.
Isn't it amazing? She's waving. For those of you who don't know, I will be interviewing Minnie Stoge or Lisa Stojanovsky in our second segment of the show. And we already have her on Skype up so she can kind of follow along as to what's going on. And she got really excited when I mentioned that. So, yes, so the little reddish, kind of brownish landmass there, that happens to be Australia in that image, which is really cool. So
That's awesome.
there you go. All right, so let's get off of Mars. Let's talk about other things. Mike, what do you got for me?
So I did just have one more quick kind of follow-up. I'll try to get through this quickly. But if you guys remember, last year on December 1st, Russia tried to launch the Progress MSO-4 cargo spacecraft at the space station, and it failed. It failed to reach orbit, and they lost telemetry before the third stage engine was supposed to cut off. A couple of minutes
that was really
before the
confusing,
third
right?
stage
There was a
engine.
lot of weirdness going on with that. So we have some answers now? Is that what's going on?
Yeah, the Roscosmos has completed their accident investigation on that, and from all the data that they were able to collect from the telemetry before they, weren't receiving any data anymore, they were able to determine that there was an explosion in the third stage, and you're seeing the third stage on screen right now. And what they're thinking is that some sort of debris either entered into the engine and then got into the fuel pump, or there was some quality control issues. And that's the theory that they're leaning most towards, is that there was something that went wrong during the manufacturing, because the origin of the explosion started in one of the fuel pumps, and then that caused the engine to underperform, and then ignited the oxidizer tank. And that explosion is why they believe they lost telemetry with the spacecraft, but it partially survived because they did receive a signal for a little while before they completely lost contact contact with the Progress spacecraft. Now, they did have a similar accident like this last year, or excuse me, back in 2015, where they had a kind of, the third stage didn't separate from the Progress vehicle, so it just spun out of control because it had all this extra weight on the end. At first, when this happened this year, I thought it was something similar, but this was a full-on explosion. And since then, they have decided to take lots of steps to investigate the third stages on the remaining Soyuz U rocket variants that the Progress was launched on, so that the next Progress vehicle can hopefully launch successfully, as well as inspect and do some quality control on all of the other more modern Soyuz variants. And I'm really hoping that they can either get through the rest of the old Soyuz U rockets successfully, or just scrap them and reuse parts for something else. But just like, man, they've had a couple problems with these old ones. These are the ones that use the old analog flight computers on them. So another example of the kind of workforce declining in Russia, and I really hope that they're able to figure out the problem and hopefully not have any more issues like this in the future, but we'll see. Since this was a cargo vehicle, I can kind of understand why the quality control isn't as good as, say, the Soyuz rockets that are used for the human space flight. Those is what they give most of their focus on, because, I mean, failure is not an option when it comes to the human space flight.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
But in any case, hopefully they'll be able to recover from that soon. They haven't gotten launch, well, they haven't given themselves launch clearance for Soyuz rockets, but they hopefully will be launching a Proton rocket soon. But there are a couple of Soyuz flights coming up within the next couple of months that hopefully will be cleared for launch and launch successfully. So just wanted to give a quick update on that.
Really nice. All right, well, and as well as other sort of quick updates here, one of the things that we didn't get a chance to cover because we just don't have footage yet because it's just entirely too fresh and too new, was that there was a SpaceX launch, and it seems like everything there is going very well according to their webcast. So congratulations there, of course. It's all very, very exciting, and 2017 so far seems to be looking up and up and up and up and up into space, I guess. Wow. Oh, I just keep hearing Ben in the back of my head. It's really, really terrible there. Oh, goodness. Anyway, wanted to make sure that I ended this segment on a light note, or at least a happy note, if anything else. And so while we close out this segment, we're going to go to a really quick break. I'm going to run over the observation deck, and then I will be interviewing our very own Lisa Stojanovsky about all kinds of fun things and that little brown patch on the picture you saw, which I think is kind of cool. All right, so we'll be right back, and enjoy the break.
I'm not sure what happened with that. There appears to have been no audio. So Ben was going to have to fix that in post. Sorry, guys. Alright, you want to come back here?
Good thing, don't you?
I muted you and unmute you.
Hello.
Hey!
So sorry, guys. We're like totally thrown off with everything this morning. It's just not the same. I need a focus point on camera 2, Carrie Ann. Like stick your laptop out there or something.
Wait, camera 2? Sadly, Ben knows which ones these are, and I don't.
The one that's currently lit. I need something about an arm and length and a half out in front of you to focus on.
You make that sound like I know which one you're talking about.
The one that's got the red light on it?
Neither one of them have red lights on them.
Oh, here. Let me try that one.
Okay, that one has a red light on it, so
Sorry.
that's the one you need a point on?
Yes, ma'am.
Is that correct? Okay. This, like, that?
Yes. We're in line with your face.
In line with my face.
So closer to the TV than.
Closer to
Yep,
the
right
TV,
there.
like that.
Right there.
Okay. almost know it.
I think we can.
I'm glad you do.
All right, I think we're good.
Perfect. So that's camera 2. I don't need to look at camera 2 because that's the wide shot of me looking at Lisa, right?
Correct.
Amazing.
We'll be here.
There's a red light. That's fantastic.
I can do it, I swear.
My faith is in you. It's just not in me. That's the thing. Hoy. All right. Much like Ben.
Today, likewise.
Okay, so really quickly, because I learned from last week's mistakes, I'm going to write something down so I don't forget, because I will. We're going to be talking about IAC, is that correct?
No, we're going to be talking about ISU.
ISU! Oh, did I say IAC?
Yeah.
That's fine. That's just the way it's going right now. Okay. And I can say your name, so I'm not going to worry about that part. All right. That's amazing. I love it.
It's totally awkward.
All right. Tim, you know I can't hear you, right?
Yeah, I'm trying to get audio on the out of the Casper box and it's not working.
Okay.
So
How does that only screw us up for the breaks?
Lisa, you had a video that had audio
I
in
just
it?
had one video that had sound, but that's okay because I can just
Okay,
tell you guys the story.
I can
Anyway.
play the video, but I cannot play audio until I
Okay,
figure
then-
this out.
Okay, then there was no need to play the video that had audio then, because it was just a story that the astronaut was saying. So I'll just paraphrase what she said.
Sorry.
That's fine. No, it's all good.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on.
It's okay.
Okay, we ready to do this?
Sure. I think the chat room's just going to sing Firewalking in the next one themselves anyway.
Yeah, cool.
So
All right,
it should be fine.
we're black, and then this camera, and then
Black and then this camera and then...
patreon.com/TMRO.
Oh, that's why you were lingering. I'm like, he's lingering and I don't care. I'm not sure what I'm supposed to say, so I'm just going to keep going.
All right, here we go.
Welcome back! It's more of me. That's what's happening today. I'm Carrie Ann, and I will be shortly interviewing Lisa, but before we get to that, I want to make sure that I give a shout out, as I am supposed to do, to all of my patrons from Patreon. Can we start that one more time? Because I feel like a complete snot-nosed... Awesome. I have clearly not tried this one before. All right. Okay, go. Welcome back. Still me. That's the way it is today. But I also have the support of the person I am interviewing, which is Lisa. But before we get to that, I want to make sure that we give a huge shout out to our, another huge shout out. I always say huge shout out, and I do actually mean a huge shout out, but I actually never do the shout out. So I'm going to do the shout out. Ready? Go to the slate. Woohoo! There we go. To our Escape Velocity patrons, these are the people who have given us $10 or more for this particular segment of this particular episode. But hang on, we have more people who decided to support us, which is really amazing. These are our orbital patrons. These are the people who have given us $5 or more to this particular segment of this particular episode. And these people get access to free worldwide shipping off of our swag store, which is really, really cool. You can get really cool pens. You can get really cool mugs. I almost said pens again because I forgot I said pens, so that's really awesome. In any case, if you would like to contribute to the show and become a patron of tomorrow, because that's really what this is about, right? We are help creating the future. Hit up patreon.com/TMRO. Tomorrow without all the extra letters. In any case, like I said, I'm Carrie Ann. I'm going to be interviewing Lisa. Hello, Lisa.
Hey, how you doing?
Fabulous, I think. This is Lisa Stojanowski. Some of you may recognize her as being, she does some space pods for tomorrow, which is really amazing because she has to do them upside down. That's the Ben joke of the segment. And she does a really great job with all of our space pods. But she also does a lot of really interesting things like International Space University, also known as ISU, right?
That's right.
Yay! And we both got haircuts, so now we match. So this is really exciting for me.
Except your hair is blue and mine's not, but that's okay.
Well, that's the only way they can tell us apart now.
Yeah. Um, so I'm actually right now still traveling because I was just at the International Space University, or ISU's Southern Hemisphere program.
Yeah.
It runs in Adelaide every year in the Australian summer, which is very hot. So I don't know why they choose to run it then. But it's a 5-week program with ISU, and I actually did the course last year. And I went back for the first week of this year's program so I could take some footage about everything that was going on and about what the program is all about. And I wanted to share that with you guys because it's a fantastic program and it's teaching the next generation of space explorers to be intercultural, interdisciplinary, and international as well. And that's the kind of 3 I's tenet of ISU, is to have those kind of 3 different focuses to kind of give you a whole different perspective on the space industry, which I think is really, really cool.
It is really cool. I have a weird, quick question. So International Space University is obviously international and open to anybody international. But this one is particular to the Southern Hemisphere. Does that mean that as an American, I am unable to attend this particular International Space University?
Not at all. In fact, you're encouraged to come to this particular program. So ISU kind of has 3 programs that they run. They do a master's course, which is in their campus, physical campus in Strasbourg in France, and that's just a kind of traditional master's course. Then they have a summer space studies program, which is a 9-week program that travels around the world, and that's the kind of flagship program of ISU. But the Southern Hemisphere program is open to everyone. It just happens to be in the Southern Hemisphere in Australia every year, and that one doesn't move, and it's slightly shorter at 5 weeks, which makes it kind of more accessible, I guess.
Yeah.
So there are lots of different countries, or people from countries that come around to this Southern Hemisphere course. In my year, there was 11 different countries, and I've actually got some footage of the different countries that are present in this year's course, because I believe we had about 9 different nationalities that were represented in the opening ceremony of the ISU Southern Hemisphere course this year.
Nice.
So we've got some footage here. We've got Australia, of course, a nice big contingent from Australia. And these are the participants of this year's course. We have Austria as well. China is actually the largest contingent of participants this year, which I think is fantastic because it's great to see different countries collaborating with China in space because, as you guys might know, China, unfortunately, is not involved with the International Space Station. But it's been great to make connections with China here. We have France as well, Germany. We also have India, and 5 participants from Mexico who heard about the course through going to the IAC conference last year in Mexico. We also have Nigeria, and finally a participant from the Philippines as well. So there's a whole different range of both established space countries being represented and up-and-coming space nations as well. So it's a really good chance for these participants from different countries to network and start collaborating with each other to hopefully go back to their own home countries and build on those collaborations and networks that they've made through doing the ISU program.
So what kind of things get covered in the ISU program? Because space, as we both know, is a fairly big topic, right? Anytime that I mention that I have this cute little video webcast and we talk about space, and then somebody will say like, oh, you mean like aliens? And I'll say, no, not like aliens. And somebody will say, oh, you mean like Planet X? And I'll say, no, not really like Planet X. I'm like, oh, so you're talking about like NASA history? Like, no, not exactly like there are so many things that we could talk about. And when you have something like International Space University, not even just like, oh, we're only going to talk about Australia's space, or only going to talk about American space, or only going to talk about China's space. Like, what are the kinds of things that somebody can expect by attending International Space University?
So one of the 3 I's of ISU, I mean, I mentioned international before, but interdisciplinary is also one of the big focuses. So for one part of the program, you have a lecture series that consists of 40 lectures, which are usually given by experts in the space industry. So, for example, Dr. Ray Williamson he used to work for the Secure World Foundation, regularly gives the space policy lectures because he's an expert on space policy, specifically with most experience in the US. And you don't just learn about policy, though. It's all about being interdisciplinary. So you learn about policy, you learn about space law, you learn about engineering, you learn about biology, life sciences, and space medicine, and you even cover a little bit on business as well, because, I mean, the commercial side of space is up and coming, and there are so many space startups around there. So it's all kind of about giving you that wide, holistic view of the space industry from all of those different perspectives to build a greater awareness of all the different opportunities that are happening in space. So I think that's a really cool part of the program, because I'm a scientist, and when I did the program, I didn't know much about engineering. I knew hardly anything about space law. But when I came out from the course, my knowledge in all those different areas that I would have never studied on my own had grown so much, and I could see how they were all related as well. The other things that you can do in the program, well, the other parts of the program, besides the lecture series, are the workshops and finally the team project. Now, the workshops that you do, in particular, one of them focuses always on team building. And this year, the astronaut that was running the team building workshop was the Korean astronaut So-yeon Yi, actually the first Korean astronaut in space. And she was able to run a team building workshop with our participants this year, which might seem kind of strange that there's such a big focus on team building. And you can see that she's teaching the students here. What they had to do is get amongst themselves, and they were actually blindfolded, which you'll be able to see now. Then they had to spin around, disorientate themselves, and form a square with equal sides. Now, how do you think you might be able to try and find other people to make yourself a square in your team without even being able to see? It was all about who became the leaders, who became the followers, and ultimately how to become a good listener, because if everyone was talking at the same time, you couldn't get anything done. They tried lots of different ways to do this, and natural leaders came out into the group and were able to kind of become the one that organized all the people. But it was really cool to see the group dynamics that had formed. And these guys took maybe 10 goes or more to finally get themselves in a bit of a square shape, but then the corners weren't good. So then they had to get someone to come along and fix the corners. So it was all about putting your trust into other people so that you could get the job done that you needed to do. Now, why does that relate to space? Well, the first space explorers that we had, the Yuri Gagarins and the John Glenns, were the kind of super confident pilots that could do anything. But when we want to go to Mars, or if we want to colonize space or live in space for a long time, we really need to be really good housemates and have really good social skills and good teams. So that's why the focus is so huge on building those strong team connections and being good leaders and good followers. So I think that part of the course as well is quite stunning.
That's really interesting. Really, I am a fantastic follower. I will totally follow directions. I have no problems just like not making decisions and just, but I also am slightly rebellious. And if I think that my leader is making a bad decision or a very detrimental decision, then all of a sudden you'll start to hear me, which is exactly how Ben and I get into fights sometimes, but that's okay. That's really fascinating. So you've attended an International Space University for at least one course. What are they called? Is that a course?
Yeah, it's just a short program, I guess you could call it.
A program. Okay. So I imagine, the way that I know you, that you would go on to more International Space University courses or programs. Would that be a fair assessment?
Yeah, I mean, I've considered it. You can always take your experience from the Southern Hemisphere program or just the regular space studies program. And you can take that through to the master's. In fact, you get credit for the lectures that you do in the short programs as part of the master's as well, which really saves you time. But I guess one of the things that you can kind of take with you when you leave the ISU course is from some of the other experiences that you can do. For example, we launched a stratospheric balloon to, I think it was 34 kilometers high in the sky. And I've got a video here to show you guys that kind of summarized our balloon launch, which I was running the webcast for, which was pretty cool. So again, this is how ISU brings the teams together, and you kind of have to do this from scratch. You have to plan out what you're going to put on this balloon. You have to build it. You have to launch it, and hopefully, if you're really lucky, you get to recover it as well. So you can see here that they're attaching the payload to the balloon that we're going to send up into near space. And this carried two cameras. It carried an infrared camera and a visible light camera, which we were able to collect the data off and do a bit of analysis on the vegetation around the area where we launched it. So something that I had no experience in before, and I now I can take that knowledge and explain it to people when they ask me, like, well, what's so cool about space? What can you learn from space? Well, you can find out how healthy plants are for a start. So here's the launch of the balloon. It launched pretty quickly, actually.
Yeah.
And we've got some images coming through there. It was really cool. I was in the car here's some images from space. It's pretty cool. Well, space, near space.
Right.
I was part of the team that had to go and collect this balloon after it came back down to the ground. So there was radio tracking on there. So we could follow the balloon as it burst, which you can see here. As it was falling down, we had to track where it was going to land. So we had to jump in the cars, race through the outback, as you can see here, which is quite dry and quite dead looking. And then we had to trek through the bush to go and find this payload. So, we learned a lot about radio tracking as well, just through this hands-on experience. And it did crash kind of hard, as you'll be able to see.
Oh, goodness. Oh.
But it survived, which is amazing. And this is how far out into the bush we had to go to get the payload. Pretty far. And, I wonder who that is. So that's another one of the projects you can do with the ISU Southern Hemisphere program. And you also write a white paper as well. But I can tell you guys a bit more about that later if you'd like. It's quite a large project that you do at the end of the course. So
Is that something you do at the end of every course?
Yes.
Like every 5 weeks or every 9 weeks or what have you?
Yeah, so each course, whether it's the 5-week or the 9-week program, they, as a kind of deliverable at the end of it, they produce a report. So, for example, in my year, our report topic was space solutions for food and water security. And I believe I have a picture of the beautiful front cover of the report that my year actually produced. And we kind of it was a 50-page report about what space can do for developing nations to help them manage their food and their water resources from space. So there are so many countries, especially in the Southern Hemisphere, that are quite underdeveloped, and there are lots of different ways that space can help them in terms of providing better lifestyles and better standards of living for their people, which is pretty cool because a lot of people think that space doesn't help the Earth, but when we do research like this through ISU, we're showing people how space can help people down here on Earth as well. So that's a 50-page report that the participants have about 3 weeks to write. So pretty great achievement to get all of that done in that really short amount of time.
Yeah. What does a typical day at International Space University look like? Because what you just told me was there's a ton of lectures, there's totally like group projects, there's all this team building stuff. You have to write a paper, which first of all still sounds like a university, so good they named it correctly. But like, are you getting up at 6 o'clock in the morning and going to bed at 4 o'clock in the morning?
Pretty much. So at the beginning of the course, it's not too bad.
Yeah.
The beginning of the course is when the lecture series is. So a typical day with the lectures is breakfast, of course, the most important meal of the day. And then lectures from 9 o'clock till about 12 o'clock. Have some time for a very quick lunch. Then you'll do a workshop in the afternoon, whether that's team building or some hands-on experience with things like STK, a computer program which stands for Satellite Toolkit, I believe. Mm-hmm. And then you'll have some dinner, and then the late evening is for things where you're working on your balloon that you're going to launch, or you're doing research for your paper, or doing some editing for that paper, or any other multitude of tasks that need to get done. So it's a full day from when you wake up to going to bed at 10 o'clock, maybe even later. That completely even gets worse during the end of the course, where you're trying to get this 50-page report finished, edited, and graphically designed into a nice looking booklet. And so your day then looks like waking up at 6 and then working on that for the whole day, and then maybe going to bed at 1 or 2, and then getting up at maybe 6 again and taking shifts with the other participants of the course on who gets to sleep at which time, and maybe bringing food to the editing team that is still frantically editing like 3 hours before the printing deadline. So we call that ISU time because it's basically fitting as much into one day as you possibly can and challenging yourself to a level that you've never challenged yourself before, and pushing yourself to learn and do things in a kind of next level of brain usage. So that's an unsustainable way to work in the long term, but over 5 weeks, it sure does get a lot of stuff done. And so, yeah, the program kind of shows you how to work at your very, very best.
That sounds awesome, actually. It probably sounds like super, super stressful for a lot of people. And it sounds like it would still be stressful. Like, I understand going into it, it would be stressful, like, to have that kind of perspective. But it sounds like so much fun. So much fun.
I guess one of my favorite parts of the whole course is the fact that we get to live with an astronaut for the first week of the course. So, well, in my course, we had 2 astronauts. We had the wonderful Robert Thirsk from Canada, and we also had Jean-Jacques Favier from France. And this year's course had the astronaut from Korea, as I mentioned, So Young Yi. And absolutely amazing that you get to be so close to these astronauts and kind of really get to know them on, I guess, a personal level, and hear their space stories, and just be kind of immersed in that experience and kind of share that experience with them, which I guess as just a regular person in the space industry, maybe you don't kind of have that close of access or relationship to those kind of people. Mm-hmm. In fact, So Yin was telling us a really cool story about how it was her first space flight. She went to the window. She was so excited to try and find her country or her hometown, because, I mean, anytime someone, like, for example, if there's a really tall tower in your city and you go up to the top of the tower, you're trying to look for something that's familiar. So you try and find, where's my school, or where's my house? The same thing for astronauts. So where's my country? You want to find that familiarity so you can connect with the Earth again. Mm-hmm. And so she could see they were flying over Europe, and then they were flying over China, and it took so long, like 10 minutes for them to pass over China, because China is just so big. And then finally, they got to Korea, and she was so excited. She went to get the camera, and she came back, and they'd already passed Korea because it was so small.
Oh, that's so sad. That's completely something I would do. Especially when you're like, right, Europe. Okay, there's the boot. All right. That's, oh, man, this is, yeah, okay, cool. Oh, there it is. That's
pretty
hilarious.
much.
Oh, I love it. How amazing. That's very, very cool. Okay, so I don't think that we've ever asked you the standard set of questions.
No, you have not.
All right, so before we get to that really quickly, if somebody is interested in going to International Space University, how do they do that?
Well, for a start, they could follow ISU on Twitter at ISUNet. They can also visit the ISU website, which is isunet.edu. And you can get all information on all ISU programs there, whether it's the master's program, the traveling space studies program, or the Southern Hemisphere program as well.
Very cool. All right, you ready?
I'm ready.
All right, so Moon or Mars first?
Both.
This is, yeah, I know, both. The Amanda's Corporation. Before coming on the show, though, what was your perspective then? Because I assume it changed a little bit.
Oh, dear. I think it was Moon first.
Yeah.
For me, like, before the show and before really getting back into space, because, like, you can see the moon. Like, if I was to go outside and try and point out to, like, my mum where the moon is. It's pretty clear. She knows where it is. But if I tried to like point out Mars, she'd be like, "Oh, are you sure that one or the one next to it?" Like
Right.
it's almost infinitely harder to kind of have a connection to this tiny dot compared to this huge thing in the sky that you've seen since you were a child. So I was moon first, but now the more I learn about Mars and the more I want to go there and grow plants on Mars and live there and die there, I've kind of shifted to Mars first as well. But I think there's benefits to doing both of them.
Totally. So the next question is, would you go? I guess you've already answered that. Would you go?
Oh yeah, I'm gonna die on Mars
Yeah. Nice.
for sure.
I like it. When do you think humans will first land on Mars?
2027?
Yeah? Not earlier.
No.
And 2027 is still really ambitious. That's only 10 years from now.
Yep.
It's already 2017. That's so crazy.
Wow, yeah, it's really close, isn't it? Oh my gosh, how exciting.
Yeah, right? When do you think humans will set foot on the moon again?
2022.
Really? Interesting.
Yeah. I'm quite ambitious.
Yeah,
But someone
no,
has to
I
be.
mean, I like it. I like it. I'm totally into it. And then I believe we probably have covered this one, but in case people didn't see your last interview, why space?
Oh, because I mean, space is just that symbolization of everything that humanity can achieve and everything that we can do to expand our knowledge of and awareness of the universe and to get ourselves out there in the pursuit of knowledge and the pursuit of exploration. It's kind of the final frontier, and it's, I guess, really a noble quest, if you will, because we've explored pretty much as we can here on Earth, except for the deep oceans. And to me, it kind of feels just really natural. It's the sky has always been above us since we've been born, since we started to learn how to walk. And there's just so much potential, like to be looking at something since you were young and then realizing that you can actually go there when it's felt so far away for such a long amount of time. So that's why space.
That's so awesome. It's, you know, I won't talk necessarily a whole lot about my day job, but my day job is pretty awesome. And sometimes you get lost in the everyday stuff, right? Like you're having a fight with a coworker, or you've run out of something that you need, or anything along those lines. And anytime I have the opportunity to give a tour of my place of work, it brings back all of that, because it's that perspective again of, oh, right, I actually do have an awesome job. I actually do work in a really awesome place. And I think space, when you talk to somebody else about why they got interested in space, or how they got interested in space, or involved, or, you know, when you talk to somebody who is passionate about what it is that they do, regardless of what it is, I suppose, but I really like space, it brings back all of that, right?
Definitely, for sure. It always kind of, it makes you kind of put everything into perspective about, you know, these are the everyday things that you're doing in your life, but why are you doing them?
Right.
Why do you do the things that you do for every day? Why are you slugging away in this 9 to 5 job? And like, how can you help humanity to be a better version of itself? Kind of. Space, I think, really helps me to always remember that.
Awesome. Ah, perfect. Okay. I don't want to ruin it. We're just going to end it there, and we're going to move on a little bit. Thank you, Lisa, so very, very much for helping me out for this segment. I appreciate it more than you know. What we're going to do next is we're going to take another little bit of a break, and when we come back, we're going to have comments from last week's show. So stay with us. We'll be right back. still me. You know what's really sad is that Mike is not an actual hologram because, or any sort of virtual assistant here. Not that I don't like
I'm
you,
a
Mike, the
real
way that you
person.
are. I'm a real boy. But it would be really cool if I was just able to like kind of wheel you into like with Lisa or wheel Lisa into here, and then I would just have everybody all at the same time, and it would be really cool.
Yeah.
Sadly, that's not a thing. She's little though; she would fit, and that would be amazing. Okay, so
That's Patreon goal. Wheels for my little static robot legs.
That would be so cool. All right, I won't scream this time because I am in the control room with Dada and I don't want to blow his ears out. Although I probably did last time. So sorry for that. But we have a lot of people to thank, and it is so amazing that we have this many people to thank. And I am so very, very, very grateful. These, of course, again, are our Escape Velocity patrons. These are the people who've given us $10 or more and have gotten access to the Slack channel. We, of course, also have our Orbital patrons. These people have given us $5 or more and have access to the worldwide swag store free shipping, which is really, really cool. But then there's more. We have our suborbital patrons. These people have given us $2.50 or more. They get access to After Dark, early access to After Dark, which is really cool. It's the show after the show. We can talk about space things. We can talk about not space things, how Mike isn't actually a hologram, all of those different things. You get more access to this, which is really great. But there's also the still very, very important ground support patrons. These people have given us $1 or more. You get your name in the show. Of course, you get access to Google Hangouts. And these people, ground support, I think, is a really, really great term for these people because they really are laying the foundation for everybody else to kind of build on top of that. So thank you. Really, very sincerely, thank any single person who's ever given us anything through Patreon. Thank you, thank you, thank you. You are making this happen. Hopefully we are making you proud. If you would like to become a patron at the ground support, suborbital, orbital, or escape velocity variation, hit up patreon.com/TMRO. Thank you. Because
Good job. It's a great way of putting that.
It's it makes me humble to be able to say thank you to you. So I appreciate that. Moving on, we have our previous show topic was discovering our universe. Is that really what we called it? We called it discovering our yeah, okay, no, I don't know either. That's what it says in the chat, in the show notes though. So discovering our universe with Fraser Kane, not Fraser Crane, but still just as good. Fraser was an awesome, thank you Fraser again for being our first guest for Orbit 10 and having the patience with us in our bumpy road there. So first comment comes off of YouTube. This one comes from, I did not read these names. This is Harry Andrew
Shack? Andrew Shack?
Harry,
Sorry,
I apologize
for butchering your name.
Yeah, says, note on that first China launch, that might not have been insulation you saw falling off, but ice. Does China use liquid oxygen? That could cause ice to form, as we've seen many a time in many a launch vehicle. But you would know better than I, Mike, so ideas on that one?
So there are a couple of Long March rockets that do use a liquid oxygen, liquid hydrogen upper stage engine, kind of the same cryogenics, but the lower stages are the kind of more toxic fuels that they have been using in the past. The launch last week, that was a Long March 2D, I believe.
I think so.
So I believe that one does have. Actually, no, I don't think that one, I'm going to have to do some research. As far as I know, the 2D is a two-stage rocket and does not use any of the liquid hydrogen or liquid oxygen, but I could be wrong on that. I'm going to have to look into that. That's a very, very good question. I should have read this ahead of time as well, so I could have been prepared. Sorry, Harry.
That's all right. That's all right. It's one of the best parts about the show being live. That being said, though, that very well could have been ice that was falling off and not insulation. However, the reason that I said that it was insulation was some other footage that they had of the launch processing, and it looked like there was just a bunch of these kind of white tiles on the payload fairing that it didn't look like that later on in flight. I couldn't see the details of that. So all that stuff that was falling away from it, that's why I might have mistakenly said that was insulation, but... That's why I said that. You mean China doesn't broadcast their launches in 4K yet?
Not yet. They're just barely getting the 360p, man. No, actually, every once in a while they'll have really good quality. Like the Long March 5 inaugural launch last year, that was in full
Yeah.
HD, and that was awesome. So we'll see if they. I'm sure things will get better and better for that, but I think it really depends on the launches. I'm sure we'll still get really grainy, low quality for a lot of their military and secret payload type launches,
Totally.
but we'll see how things go. It's getting better all the time from everyone. Not just China and India's launch footage is getting better. Everyone. I'm sorry, we're focused on this way too much. Let's move on.
I got you. I totally understand. Okay, so next comment also comes off of YouTube. This one comes from Theodore Worthen. How will the information gathered from a mission to a Trojan asteroid differ from that of a mission to an asteroid in the normal asteroid belt? How do these groups of asteroids differ from each other? This is a great question for Jared, who is not here. Mike, do you have any insight on this one? Because I really don't, unfortunately.
So I am not the resident astronomer, but to my understanding, the Trojan asteroids are a little bit different because even though the main asteroid belt and the Trojan asteroids might have formed at the same time and possibly even in the same place, the main asteroid belt has had a lot of the heavy bombardment. So a lot of pieces have been hit. I mean, we can just look at some of the bigger asteroids, or rather dwarf planet, Ceres, and the very large asteroid Vesta in the main asteroid belt, just to look at the bombardment there. So there has been a lot of activity in the main asteroid belt, whereas the Trojan asteroids have been relatively undisturbed. And also some of them might be captured asteroids that were not from the main asteroid belt, but from somewhere out in space. A rogue asteroid that wasn't originally formed around our sun. So to my understanding, the reason why we want to check out these Trojan asteroids is A, to get a better, more pristine sample of the asteroids that did form in our solar system, to kind of get that, let's go back to the source type of information, and also if we discover any others that did not form here, and to get interesting data about that. But it's more about getting the better samples, to my understanding. I could be very wrong about that, and hopefully Jared isn't cringing as he's hearing this, and I'm sure he'll correct us if we're wrong.
I was just going to say, worst comes to worst, when Jared comes back next week, and Jared will be hosting next week, he can fill in the details there on that one.
Yeah.
So, next question also comes off of YouTube. This one comes from Rico61. Says, big
Rico.
fan of Fraser in the universe today. He's an excellent science communicator. You know what? That's a perfect way of wording that. Good choice for an interview. It wasn't even necessarily a choice per se, in so much as saying, hey, would you mind doing this? And he said gladly. So that was really amazing. Again,
You're ruining the magic.
I know. I mean, I would love to say that we have just our choices. It would be like, I shall interview you this day, and I shall interview you that day. One day, I think maybe we will get there, and people will be calling us to be interviewed, as opposed to us having to reach out and touch somebody else. But at the same time, yeah, really great interview. He was, like I said, very patient with us. I appreciate that very much. And yeah, really, it was nice. He is a very excellent science communicator. That was a very good way of saying that. Okay, so next question, I keep saying that, comment comes off of YouTube from our very own Destructor 1701. I had to laugh at this one, Destructor. Quote unquote, before I go into break, just a few questions that we ask everyone, unquote, then 11 minutes of answers before the break. Love it. Great interview. Yeah. No, it's funny. Go ahead.
I'm sure, as Ben Credible would say, we will go over if the content dictates. We were having a great interview. We were having really great discussions, and there was really great answers that Fraser Kane gave. So, I think that it's okay sometimes when we go over like that. And just like Destructor said, love it. I mean, it was good stuff that we were talking about, so there wasn't any issue there. But it is funny how we will say that a lot. Even today during the news segment, it's like, oh, just real quick, I want to say this, and then like 6-7 minutes later,
right?
we're done with that topic. terrific.
Because I did read, I didn't read who wrote the comments, but I did read the comments themselves beforehand, and that really sincerely got into my head. And so I was like, hey, how am I doing on time, you guys? And in the other room, and I'm like, because I feel like I've been talking to Lisa a while, and I feel like it's doing good, but I don't know how long I've been talking to her for, and I have these other things I'm going to do, and that's all I could think was like, oh, no, just a couple of really quick questions, no big deal, and that Lisa and I would just continue to talk. Thank you, of course, to Lisa for keeping me on track for that one. So that was hilarious. Just structure, you got into my head. Stop it. Okay. Last comment comes off of Patreon, actually. This one comes from Tom Westcott. It says, dark energy, dark matter, like I tell my third graders who just discovered infinity, it's not a real thing. Just means that if you think that's the answer, there was something wrong with your question. It's a fascinating way of looking at that, and I'm going to
Watch out,
leave
Jared.
that.
Trigger warning.
I'm going to leave that one for Jared to answer, as I have no information about dark energy other than anything that Jared has ever taught me, which he has taught me a lot, don't get me wrong, but I don't want to speak from an area that I really am just not secure in, if you will. Mike, did you have anything to add to that?
Nope, we'll let Jared talk about it.
I can't wait. This is going to be amazing. That will be amazing. So what's going to happen is that next week, I will also not be here. Sorry, Mike, I guess the show's all yours. Mike and Dada will be here, and Jared will be back here, which will be very, very cool. And Jared is going to be not only answering that question, he will also be interviewing Dennis Wingo, which for those of you who know, that should be a really great interview. I'm very excited for Jared to be able to do that. That'll be very, very cool. So we are not going to be having an After Dark. I apologize. So those of you who get early access to After Dark, I apologize for that right now. But what you do get is some really great content that we created here today, if you will. So thank you, Patreon patrons, one more time. And Mike, I think that's about it. I will see you in 2 weeks. Bye.
Enjoy your annual Disney pilgrimage. That's what you guys are doing, right?
Yep, it's my birthday, so that's what's going on there. And thank you to Dada for keeping everything going. Thank you once again to Lisa for joining us and giving a really great interview. You were so easy to talk to. I appreciate that on so many different levels. And thank you guys, of course, for joining us every single week live. And even, on demand, it's great to have you. We couldn't do this without you. And when I say that, it's not just like that we wouldn't do this without you. We probably still would. But we can't continue to make it better every single week without you. So thank you one more time. That's it for me. I'll see you guys in 2 weeks. Have fun next week. And thanks for hanging out with me. Bye.